This happened a few months ago. I'm 35 and just moved to this quiet town. I thought a change of scenery would spark my creativity as a freelance graphic designer. At first, everything felt nice. The streets were lined with trees full of colorful leaves, and I could smell wood smoke in the air. I was excited to settle in. That October night, I decided to work late. I wanted to channel the Halloween spirit into my designs. I sat up at my desk with the windows open, letting in the cool breeze. The moonlit decorations outside looked charming. It felt peaceful, or so I thought. Then, I heard it. Faint giggles like children playing. I looked outside, but there was nothing, no kids, no parents, just quiet. I convinced myself it was just some late-night trick-or-treaters doing their thing. But as I kept working, I heard those giggles again, louder this time. A chill ran down my spine. I glanced out the window, but still nothing. Confused, I returned to my work, but my focus was slipping away. I felt uneasy. Shadows in the yard seemed off somehow. They flickered at the edges of my vision, moving strangely. I tried to shake off the feeling. Maybe it was just the branches swaying in the wind. But then something caught my eye. There were markings on my front door. I was sure they hadn't been there before. They looked like symbols. I didn't know what they meant. My heart started to race. I almost touched them but hesitated. What if they meant something? Then, I heard at the attic. A sound, hard to describe. Maybe scratching. My stomach dropped. I wanted to go up there, but I couldn't move. Part of me wanted to run, but another part felt trapped with whatever was hiding in those shadows. As the night dragged on, the giggles echoed in my mind. I felt cold, like the air had dropped. I mustered my courage and checked outside again. Still nothing, just empty streets dimly lit by jack-o'-lanterns. I leaned against the door, not sure what to do. Then came a final laugh, sharp and clear, piercing the stillness. It was followed by complete silence. My breath hitched. I looked around, half expecting to see someone behind me. But there was nothing. I stood frozen, my heart racing, and when I turned back to the door, a question stuck in my throat: was it my imagination, or was something truly out there? I never figured it out that Halloween night. I still think back on it, the laughter and shadows. Did I really experience those things, or was it all just a trick of the mind? The next morning, I woke up exhausted. My dreams had been restless. All I could remember were shadows dancing, giggles echoing in a perpetual loop. I rubbed my eyes and glanced at the clock. It was nearly noon. I slept in, but I felt the need to face the day. With a cup of coffee in hand, I tried to brush off the night before. I convinced myself it was just a bad dream, a trick my mind played on me. I walked to the front door, thinking I might check the markings again. Maybe they had some simple explanation. But they were gone. My heart sank. Had I imagined them? Determined to shake off the weird feeling, I decided to explore the town. I ventured out, hoping to distract myself. The sun shone bright, bathing everything in warm light. Families were out, kids playing in the parks, laughter ringing in the air. It felt almost normal, but part of me remained uneasy. I stopped by a small cafe, where I ordered a muffin. The barista was an older woman with bright eyes. I felt compelled to share. I just moved here, and, well, last night was a little strange. I thought I heard kids outside, but... She chuckled lightly. Oh, those little ghosts. She leaned closer, as if sharing a secret. Every Halloween, children think they can play tricks on the new folks. Nothing to worry about, dear. I laughed along with her, but my gut twisted. Was she joking, or did she know something I didn't? You mean kids actually do these things? Not just kids, she said, her smile fading. It's a Halloween tradition here. Some say it's all in good fun. Others. She trailed off, glancing toward the window. What others? I pressed. She shook her head. You should be careful of old tales in this town. The darker ones. Her words hung in the air, heavy with weight. I finished my muffin in silence, now hyper-aware of my surroundings. The laughter outside seemed more sinister. I paid and left, the taste of unease lingering in my mouth. Later that evening, I decided I had to confront my fear. I returned home and stood outside my front door, searching for the marks. They were still missing. But that strange scratching sound returned, more distinct this time, echoing from the attic. I swallowed hard, feeling the familiar dread settle in my bones. I hesitated. Maybe it was just the old house settling, but deep down, I knew I had to investigate. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the creaky stairs, each step sending shivers through me. At the attic door, I paused. There it was again, the scratching, frantic now. Hello? I called, my voice barely a whisper. Silence fell. Then, I heard a soft, high-pitched giggle. My heart raced. I flung open the door, shining the flashlight into the dim space. Something moved in the corner. I turned just in time to see a shadow dart away. Everything within me screamed to run. But I stood rooted in place, the cold air wrapping around me like a shroud. Then everything went dark. I stumbled backward, heart pounding in my chest. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic beams of light that danced off the walls like angry spirits. I fought back the urge to scream as I groped along the wall for the light switch. Finally, my fingers found it, and the overhead bulb flickered to life. In the harsh light, the attic appeared just as I'd left it, boxes piled high, dusty old furniture, and stacks of forgotten memories. But my breathing was uneven, and my mind raced. What had I seen? Was it just my imagination playing tricks, or was something really up there with me? I hesitated, the shadow lingering in my mind. I took a step further inside, my flashlight steady, illuminating the corners more thoroughly. A stack of boxes caught my eye, unmarked and stacked unevenly. I wasn't brave enough to dig through them, and every instinct in me screamed to leave. But my curiosity held me in place. Then I noticed something. A kid's toy lay partially hidden beneath the boxes, a small wooden car with worn paint. My heart dropped. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. It seemed out of place, forgotten in this attic, and a chill crawled up my spine. The few times I had visited, I hadn't seen any children around. Suddenly, a sharp knock sounded from the attic door behind me. My body froze. Hello? I called out, my voice trembling. No response. Just the echo of the walls. My instincts kicked in. I darted to the door, flinging it open, hoping to escape whatever lingered within those shadows. But my breath hitched when I stepped into the hallway. It was empty. I made my way downstairs, nearly tripping over the creaking steps. The house felt different now, strange and unwelcoming, as if it had been holding its breath. Once in the living room, I scanned for anything unusual. The old photographs on the walls caught my attention. But then, under the faint light, I noticed a blurred silhouette in one of the frames. A family photo, older than the others, showed children smiling, their faces almost indistinguishable. I squinted closer. That was the moment I knew I wasn't alone anymore. A chill passed through me, and I whipped around, looking for movement, but nothing stirred. Just that scratching sound, only this time, it wasn't coming from the attic. It was below me, deep within the floorboards. I couldn't ignore the sense of dread. I grabbed my phone and hurried outside, wanting fresh air and daylight. But as I opened the front door, a new sense of horror washed over me. There on my porch, staring up at me, were two children. They wore pale clothes and their faces were blank. No smiles, no giggles, just an unsettling stillness. I froze, my heart hammering. It was too late to run. I stumbled backward, unsure of what to do next. Then one of them spoke in a soft voice, "Can we play?" I backed away further, feeling a panic rise. I didn't know what kind of game they wanted to play. I didn't want anything to do with it. And that's when one of them turned and pointed toward the street, where a flickering light danced beneath the trees. Everything in me screamed to forget it all, to turn and leave. But I couldn't move. Their eyes held mine, and I knew I was in deeper than I had ever realized. The children didn't move. They stood there, their pale forms blending into the dim light of the porch. I felt trapped, caught in their gaze. "Play?" I stammered, my voice a mere whisper. Everything around us felt unnaturally quiet. The street, once lively, now lay shrouded in a hushed anticipation. One of the children took a step forward, eyes wide and expectant. "It'll be fun," the other chimed in, tilting their head. Something about their smiles, thin and brittle, was all wrong. I wanted to scream but couldn't bring myself to make a sound. My feet felt glued to the floor. They pointed again, this time toward the flickering light further down the street. The light danced in a manner that made my stomach twist. I could feel it beckoning to me, wrapping around my mind like an icy hand. I instinctively took a step back, glancing over my shoulder to see if I could escape inside. But the door hadn't closed behind me. It stood ajar, as if inviting me back into the safety of the house. Still, the shadows felt alive, waiting for me to cross the threshold again. I took another step backward and bumped into the door frame, heart racing. "Play with us." They echoed, their voices layered with an unsettling harmony. I couldn't believe I was considering it, but the truth gripped my heart. Something deep inside wanted to know what lay in that light. What kind of game?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. The first child grinned and the light behind them flickered again. "Hide and seek." They chirped, their eyes glinting like marbles. "You seek, we hide." I wanted to run. I wanted to slam the door and never look back. But instead, I found myself nodding slowly, tempted by their innocence, curious about the game. My feet urged me to step forward, veering closer to the light that flickered with a life of its own. "Okay." My voice barely escaped my throat. "I'll play." The moment the words left my lips, their laughter erupted, sharp and dissonant. They turned and dashed into the darkness, their figures disappearing beneath the trees. I felt the urge to call after them, but I kept silent, the air thick with foreboding. I turned toward the flickering light, my pulse racing with each step on the uneven ground. As I approached, I noticed it was not just a light. It flickered like a candle but cast strange shadows that danced wildly. And then I saw it, a figure standing beneath the dim glow. A woman in a flowing white dress, her face obscured by cascades of dark hair. My heart sank as I realized she was not quite right either. I hesitated, fear closing in on me. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence hung thick in the air, and the wind picked up, carrying the whispers of the children somewhere between the branches. I could feel my resolve waver. Then everything went dark. The light snuffed out like a candle extinguished by an unseen force. I was surrounded by shadows, and the fear engulfed me. A low giggle echoed from behind, and panic surged as I spun around, searching for the children, for the light, for a way out. All I knew was that I wasn't done playing yet, and I hadn't intended to lose this game. I took a shaky breath. The darkness pressed against me, thick and suffocating. I stumbled backward, my heart racing, desperate to find a way out. Just as I turned, a flicker of light returned. It stung my eyes, blinding me for a moment. I shielded my face with my hands and squinted through my fingers. "Ready or not, here we come." A voice called out from the shadows. It was the children. They had returned, laughter spilling from their lips like water over stones. The sound echoed off the trees, filling the air with a twisted delight. I felt frozen in place. The shadows around me shifted like living things, and I could see outlines of the children moving through the darkness. They were toying with me, and it wasn't a game I wanted to play anymore. I had to escape. "Hey!" I shouted, trying to sound brave. "This isn't funny. I want to go home." The laughter only grew louder, a chorus of small, melodic giggles that pierced through my fear. I glanced desperately for a path back to my house, but every direction felt like an abyss. The flickering light remained behind me, teasing me like a beacon of hope I could not reach. It was then that I noticed something strange on the ground, a shimmering sheen, glinting under the light like crushed glass. I crouched down, my breath hitching at the sight. It wasn't glass, it looked like tiny shards of ice. And they were moving, swirling slowly like a lazy river, creating strange patterns. "Are you looking for something?" A whisper coiled around my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. I whirled around, but no one was there. Just the shadows, stretching and yawning as if they were readying themselves for a feast. I just want to play," I stammered, unsure of what else to say or do. It felt like a desperate plea, not a statement of courage. A figure emerged from the dark, the outline growing clearer in the flickering light. It was the woman from before, her long white dress now glowing eerily. As she stepped closer, her face tilted down, and I finally caught a glimpse of her features. Pale skin, hollow cheeks, and an unsettling smile revealed too many sharp teeth. I stumbled back, horrified. "Who are you?" I managed, backing away until my back hit the rough bark of a tree. "We're all friends here," she said, her voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "Figuring out the game is part of the fun." Then she raised her hand toward the sky. The shadows thickened as she summoned the darkness, and the laughter of the children swelled, echoing all around me. I couldn't see the children anymore, but I could hear their giggles morphing into something sinister. I forced myself to take a breath. I needed to think. Maybe I could still find a way to win this game, whatever it was. But just as I started to formulate a plan, the ground trembled beneath my feet, and I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. "Someone else is coming," a child's voice whispered, as if sharing a secret. "Get ready to play." That chilling thought sent ice through my veins. I wasn't the only one drawn into this game, and as the footsteps neared, I dreaded what would happen next. The footsteps grew louder, crunching over fallen leaves and twigs, reverberating through the darkness like a warning. I pressed my back harder against the tree, desperate to stay hidden. Who was coming? Did they mean to join this twisted game? Suddenly, the shadows shifted, and a new figure stepped into the flickering light. It was a boy, slightly older than me, his eyes wide with fear. Dirt smudged his cheek, and he looked just as lost as I felt. Relief washed over me for a moment. I wasn't alone. "Help me!" I called out, my voice cracking. "We need to get out of here." He glanced around, his face slipping into uncertainty. "I tried to leave earlier," he whispered. "But the way just disappears. We're trapped." The woman with the sharp-toothed smile chuckled from the shadows. "Trapped? Oh dear, no. You're just starting to play." Her eyes glimmered with delight. The laughter of the children wrapped around us like a poisoned blanket, stifling any thoughts of escape. "What do you mean play?" I asked, trying to sound defiant but feeling the quiver in my voice. "Every game has rules," she replied, stepping closer. I noticed the ice shards beneath her feet glisten more fiercely, as if responding to her presence. "And there's only one way out, you must win." I glanced at the boy beside me, panic creeping into my gut. "Win what? What do we even have to do?" The woman tilted her head, her smile widening impossibly. That's the fun part. You'll find out soon enough. Just remember, don't fall behind. With that, she snapped her fingers, and the ground shook violently. I stumbled, grabbing onto the tree for support, but the boy lost his balance and fell to the ground. Watch out! I yelled as shadows surged forward, darting toward him like wild animals. Instinct kicked in, and I lunged forward, grabbing his arm just as the darkness encroached. Get up! We both scrambled to our feet, hearts pounding in unison. The laughter around us was no longer playful, it felt predatory. I didn't know what these children wanted, but I could sense danger swelling like a storm. This way! I shouted, spotting a dim path illuminated by the faintest light at the edge of the clearing. I tugged the boy's arm, pulling him along with me as we raced through the forest, dodging branches and fallen logs. As we ran, I could hear whispers rising behind us, the voices blending into an echoing chant. Don't look back. Keep going. The boy urged. I felt a cold breeze swirl around us, almost dragging me down, but I pushed harder, fueled by adrenaline. Suddenly, the light ahead flickered and dimmed, like a candle struggling against the dark. My heart sank. What if it goes out? I gasped, dread pooling in my stomach. That's not the only worry. He yelled, pointing behind me. I turned just in time to see shadows extending, coiling like snakes in pursuit of their prey. We need to move. I shouted again, and with a burst of energy, we sprinted toward the light, uncertainty gnawing at my resolve. Whatever twisted game they wanted to play, I sensed we were running out of time. I had to reach that light, or we'd be lost to the shadows forever. But as we drew closer, the light flickered out completely, leaving us in total darkness again. A suffocating silence enveloped us, and a single whisper, colder than ice, echoed through the void. Welcome to the game. The silence was so thick I felt like I could touch it. I could barely hear my own breathing, just the rhythmic thump of my heart against my chest. Where are we? I whispered, gripping the boy's arm tighter. He was trembling next to me, and my fear only grew. Then a flicker sparked within the darkness. A faint glow, almost too weak to see, pulsed a few steps ahead. I squinted, my eyes straining to make out details. There. I said, pointing toward the light. Let us go. We moved cautiously, each step echoing like a footfall in a haunted house. The light grew brighter but revealed strange shapes around us, twisted branches that appeared almost alive, creeping towards us like hands yearning to trap us. I shuddered and pushed forward, drawing closer to that unexpected glimmer. As we neared, I realized it wasn't just a light but a small lantern swinging gently as if held by invisible hands. The warm glow flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced around us. I hesitated. Was this a trap? Do you think it's safe? The boy asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, but we have to risk it, I replied. I stepped forward, reaching for the lantern. Suddenly, the shadows around us writhed. A cold, mocking laugh broke the silence, and I froze. Do you want to play? The voice taunted, ringing out from the darkness. I turned, searching for the source, but there was nothing, just a ripple of shadows pulling me in. Let go! I shouted, tugging on the boy's arm, but he hesitated, his eyes fixed on the lantern. We can't stay here. Before I could protest further, the shadows surged again, merging with the light and swallowing it whole. The air grew cold. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling a chill creep down my spine. And then I heard a soft, fluttering sound, like whispers of wings. Out of the darkness, shadowy figures materialized, flitting just out of reach. My stomach dropped. They weren't human, not entirely. Their forms morphed, shifting with every heartbeat, eyes glinting like shards of ice in the dark. Run! I yelled, pulling the boy toward the last spot of light that now felt like a beacon. We bolted, dodging and weaving, but the shadows hissed and dove, cutting off our escape. "Over there!" he shouted, pointing to a path that wound through a thicket. Without thinking, I sprinted toward it. The moment we stepped through, I felt a wave of warmth wash over me like a sunbeam breaking through a storm. The shadows seemed to recoil, shrieking as they faded back into the darkness. We made it, but I knew it wasn't over. I glanced back, and all I could see were the distant eyes blinking at us from the inky void. "What was that?" the boy asked, breathing heavily beside me. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. We were safe for now, but the game wasn't done with us. As we stepped further along the path, I felt a strange energy around us, something unsettling. That's when I noticed a faint glow of more lanterns intermittently lighting the way ahead. But my instinct told me those lights were just another piece of the game. The lanterns continued to flicker along the path, each one casting an inviting glow against the dark. Despite their warmth, I felt uneasy. Was this the way out? Or just another trap? I glanced at the boy beside me, his face a mask of fear mixed with hope. "Do you see the lanterns?" I asked quietly. He nodded, his eyes wide. "Maybe they'll lead us to safety." I wanted to believe him, but as I took a step forward, the ground felt oddly soft beneath my feet, almost like it was shifting. I stopped, glancing down in suspicion. Dark tendrils curled around my shoes. It was as if the earth itself was alive, trying to pull us down. "Wait!" I grabbed the boy's arm tightly, pulling him back. "Don't move." "Why?" he asked, confusion washing over his face. "Something's not right." I crouched slowly, trying to get a better look at the ground. As I did, I noticed the faint outlines of figures pressed into the earth. They looked like faces twisted, anguished expressions trapped in the soil. "Are they alive?" he whispered, trembling. I shook my head. "I don't know. But we can't stay here." With a surge of adrenaline, I pulled him back again. We had to move. I led him away from the unsettling sights, focusing on the next lantern, hoping it would guide us out of this nightmare. As we walked, the air thickened. I could hear soft whispers, so faint I thought I might be imagining them. It felt like eyes were watching us, cold, unblinking eyes in the shadows. My heart raced, and I quickened my pace. "We have to hurry." But the whispered voices grew louder, intertwining with the faint sound of laughter. It echoed around us, bouncing from tree to tree, mocking our fear. "Let us play," they called, the words dripping with malice. Just then, the lanterns flickered wildly, and I stumbled back. "What is happening?" I turned to face the boy, but a look of horror swept across his features. "Behind you!" he screamed. I spun around, and my stomach dropped. Emerging from the trees were the shadowy figures again, but this time they were closer, their icy eyes narrowing as they advanced toward us. Their forms were twisted and grotesque, shifting in and out of focus like they were hardly there at all. "Run! Go!" I shouted, pulling the boy forward, determined to escape this horror. We dashed along the path, the lanterns trailing behind us. I glanced back, and those twisted figures were hot on our heels, their laughter ringing in my ears. Then, without warning, the ground beneath us was gone. We both fell, plummeting into a dark pit. I braced myself for impact, but instead, I landed on what felt like soft grass, a surreal contrast to the darkness around us. I blinked, the light from the lanterns shimmering above us, casting long shadows on the walls of the pit. It was deeper than I thought, more like a cavern. "What happened?" the boy asked, his voice trembling. I opened my mouth to respond, but that's when I noticed a faint glow in the depths ahead, pulsing softly as if it were alive. And then I realized, something was waiting for us down there. I swallowed hard, heart racing again. We have to find a way out, I said, uncertainty knotting in my stomach. But as we turned to climb back up, the shadows on the walls shifted, and the laughter returned, echoing louder than before. The whispers grew, swirling around us, filling the cavern with an uneasy melody. I glanced at the boy, the fear etched on his face stealing my breath. We were trapped, and I could feel panic setting in. Look! He pointed wildly down the tunnel where the faint glow pulsed. What is that? I didn't want to know, but I knew we couldn't stay here. We have to check it out, I said, forcing a resolve I didn't feel. Grabbing his hand, I pulled him toward the light. Each step was heavy, the ground felt unsteady. The laughter echoed again, now it sounded so close, like a cruel echo of our own fears. As we moved deeper, I could see the source of the glow, a spherical orb resting on a pedestal of dark rock. It emitted a comforting warmth that contrasted sharply with the chill creeping into my bones. It looks safe, I murmured, though a part of me knew better. We shouldn't touch it. The boy hesitated, looking back toward the shadows. His instincts were right, but I couldn't let my fear overrule our desperation. Just as I reached out to touch the orb, the air thickened even more. It felt like a weight pressing down on us, and suddenly, the orb shattered in a blink. Radiance poured out, flooding the cavern with light that revealed the faces within the walls. Their mouths moved, mouths that looked familiar, mouths that resembled the boy's. Do you see them? They look like I faltered, the realization crippling me. The laughter morphed into cries, and the figures seemed to reach for us with twisted hands. Run! We have to get out! I shouted, yanking the boy toward the opposite end of the cavern. The shadows surged, and I felt a cold, lingering breath brushing against my neck. The path to climb out was steep and rocky, but I didn't care. I scrambled, pulling the boy behind me as the anguished faces closed in. I could hear the laughter gaining on us, echoing, relentless. Time felt warped, every second stretched into an eternity as we clawed our way up. My legs burned, my heart raced faster. Just as I thought we might see the light again, the ground beneath us trembled. The shadows were reaching out, pulling at my shoes, and a sudden scream escaped my lips. I couldn't lose him. Not here. Not now. In one last effort, I heaved us upward, finally breaking through the surface, gasping for air. But I quickly realized we weren't free, we were in another part of the same cavern, the walls shifting in the harsh light like a living thing. And then, I saw her, a woman dressed in white with hollow eyes, a smile that didn't reach her lips. Welcome back, she said, and with those words, the light flickered. Panic etched itself across my mind. Who was she? What did she want? Then everything went dark. I was paralyzed by the sudden absence of light. The cavern, filled with shadow and an uncomfortable silence, felt like a suffocating maw, ready to swallow me whole. I turned, half expecting the figure in white to leap out from the enveloping darkness, but she was gone. The shadows moved in and around me, whispering indecipherable secrets that tingled at the edge of my consciousness. Stay close, I whispered to the boy, who was still by my side, his breathing quick and uneven. I could feel the fear radiating from him, mirroring my own growing dread. We were no longer just running, we were lost in a trap that seemed to reshape itself with every heartbeat. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared ahead, pulsing like a heartbeat, a warm, golden glow that threw the shadows back. My instincts told me to run toward it, to reach for whatever hope remained. This way, I urged, grabbing the boy's hand, pulling him toward the light. With each step, the cacophony of laughter and whispers faded, replaced by an echoing silence, thick and palpable. The air felt charged, as if it bore a weight of questions that lingered just beyond comprehension. But ahead, the light grew stronger, illuminating what appeared to be a narrow pathway. We stumbled into a wide-open chamber, and I shielded my eyes from the sudden brightness. The walls glimmered with thousands of tiny crystals that caught the light, casting a kaleidoscope of colors around us. In the center sat a large stone pedestal, dusk-like shades woven into the surface as if it were alive. "Do you think we're safe?" the boy murmured, glancing around at the shimmering walls. "I don't know," I confessed, but hope stirred within me. Perhaps this room was the end of the sinister game, a sanctuary from the darkness. Just then, a chilling giggle pierced the tranquility. I spun around, my heart racing. From the shadows emerged two familiar forms, the same pale children with hollow eyes. Their laughter felt sharp, their smiles a twisted reflection of innocence. "Did you find the prize?" one of them taunted, pointing toward the glowing orb, the very same orb that shattered moments ago. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice trembling, desperate to reclaim the power I felt slipping through my fingers. "Just to play," the other child replied sweetly, and their mirth echoed through the chamber, wrapping around us like a cruel cloak. In an instant, the lights dimmed. I reached for the boy, my blood running cold. "We have to go," I screamed, but as I turned to escape, shadows slithered across the ground, coiling around my ankles. The laughter crescendoed, resonating with an eerie chanting that sent chills racing down my spine. Then I saw her again, the woman in white, emerging from a corner with her sharp-toothed grin. "You didn't think you could leave without playing the final round, did you?" she taunted, her voice a soft caress layered with malice. "No." I felt despair creeping in again, clenching my heart. The whispers grew louder, drowning me in a sea of uncertainty. "This wasn't the deal. The game always has a final act," she said, stepping closer. The shadows writhed around her, mocking our terror. With a surge of bravery, or perhaps desperation, I turned to the boy. "Remember what she said about winning? We need to play our own way." I didn't know if it was a good idea, but the urge to regain control pushed me forward. "What do we do?" he whispered, eyes darting around the chamber. "We outsmart them," I replied, my throat dry. "Just like hide and seek." With that, I dashed back toward the walls of the chamber, where the vibrant light danced with promise. "You think you can escape?" The children's laughter trailed behind us, but I was no longer afraid. They couldn't touch us if we vanished into the light. In a heartbeat, I turned and shouted, "You'll never find us." My voice echoed, mixing with their shrill giggles. I pressed myself against one shimmering wall, pulling the boy beside me, closing my eyes and imagining we could blend into the light, into the essence of the crystals. An unsettling silence enveloped us for what felt like eternity. Would it work? My heart thudded, reverberating through my skull. Then I felt a cold breeze sweeping through the chamber, swirling around and penetrating the fabric of existence like a knife. The shadows clawed at our heels, the echoes of laughter ringing hollow in the stillness. Thud. 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 I opened my eyes just in time to see the woman's face twisted in disbelief, her grin faltering. The children halted in their tracks, their laughter dying in a gasp as we shimmered, merging with the light. Then, like smoke dissolving in the sun, the shadows receded. The woman's eyes widened in realization, and the darkness around her crumbled into silence, consuming her form. The boy and I plunged forward, breaking through the barrier of light, a burst of warm energy erupting around us. We were free, at least, as far as I could tell. When we finally collapsed to the grass, I blinked at the star-filled sky above, gasping for breath. The crisp night air was a stark contrast to the suffocating dark we had escaped. But as I turned to check on the boy, I noticed the uncertainty lingering between us. "Did we win?" he murmured, catching his breath like a lost soul finding solace. I stared into the distance, the silhouettes of the trees standing tall against the moonlit sky, shadows still lurking on the edges of my mind. "I hope so," I replied, the words hanging in the air like a lingering threat. As we made our way home, I occasionally glanced back at the house that had once felt so inviting. Just beyond the front porch, I swore I could still hear a soft giggle, a reminder that not everything had been left behind. Days passed, yet I couldn't shake the unease. Did we escape, or were we merely players in a game yet to unfold? I moved to a different town shortly after. Environment, however, sometimes I wonder if those shadows still dance in the silence, waiting for the next unwitting victim. I can only hope that one day, I'll find the courage to seek the truth, or perhaps, just perhaps, to never look back.